Welcome, travelers, to another installment of Attarik's Crew. It is I, the Teller, and I am here, as always, to tell you a tale. But before we begin, my conspirator has asked me to extend gratitude to the mysterious benefactors Yev, Nomad, and Backblaze for helping us keep the stories flowing and the fires going. So thank you, all of you. Now today's tale will cover all that has previously transpired during the first 3 installments of Travels and Travails of our favorite unit of Attarik's Crew. Now, without further ado, our tale. Our story begins today with our heroes bound and captured, each one facing their worst fear, not to mention the loss of their freedom and lives. They are in a dark, cavernous room. Hazel's head is heavy with an unbearable weight as the entire team is surrounded by the sharp blades at the end of the extended polearms. Klesh finds themselves being held at spear point while Ralder has been stripped of his armor and weapons and stands accused of his greatest fears. Polythera, who is bound at the hands while an executioner's blade is poised directly over her head. Carvis stands aside, frozen in fear that if she moves, her friends will fall to these perils. Quietly, Ralder mutters a prayer to Tymora, and a shimmering light encircles his body. Around them, the shapeless figures that stand guard begin to close in. Klesh does their best to convince the captors to set them free, but is only able to barter themselves out from under the points of the spears, holding them in place, and over to stand with their comrades. Polythera attempts to move away from the impending axe above her, but only as she rolls away sees the axe swing down in the peripheral of her eye. In an attempt to unveil their captors, Hazel speaks a spell that calls forth fairy fire to them, but as the glimmering lights fill the area, they are only swallowed whole by the abyssal black darkness about them. Carvis steels herself and whispers a command of sleep in an attempt to free Hazel from the sphere of blackness pressing him down. Luckily, her spell falls on the ears of the 3 captors, and a thrill fills her chest as they slump to the floor. But her victory is short-lived, as 6 others take their place, and the heavy weight pinning Hazel presses down into him, pushing him into darkness as new guards descend on Carvis. Ralder's golden shield fades out as arrows from all around him find their way home into his flesh, and the axe blade slices deep into Polythera's neck, while Klesh is sucked into the sky, darkness falling over all around our wasted heroes. But fear not, travelers, this disturbing scene was merely but a dream, and all of the crew wake in the comfort of their respective quarters. And now I'll take a moment to switch back. Wonderful. Slowly, everyone finds themselves sitting in the mess hall. It is Pancake Day. Now let me tell you, travelers, amongst our protagonists, Pancake Day is a sacred day indeed. Even those who do not participate in the flattened sweet pillows of griddle-fried batter find themselves drawn to the mess as they await the day's marching orders. Though they won't have long to wait, as the silver dragonborn Lieutenant Colonel Vesdruth appears and drops a satchel into Ralder's hands, and with all the ceremony of a passing glance, recruits the team to follow him to his office for the rest of their orders. Bewildered, this ragtag team shamble together and head off toward the command post, where they are given orders to travel to the north, to the Duchy of Odref, and hand off a satchel to the Duchess Fricta. They are given strict instructions not to open the satchel until they are in the presence of the Duchess herself. So after a quick stop to the quartermaster Radish, they all acquire horses for the journey, and our team finds themselves on their way. After checking the map, Klesh leads the team north through the neutral lands that separate Gravisport and the Duchy of Odref. As their path is straight and steady, the first leg of their journey is quiet and uneventful. But it is not long until the crew reaches the edges of Docklook, a small town sitting atop an equally small hill overlooking the rest of the land. Having ridden most of the day, our team makes the decision to stay at the only tavern in town, the Pygmy Troll, for the evening. The tavern is run by a small dwarf named Helga, who auspiciously offers Hazel special accommodations in her own chambers, which he respectfully declines, so the crew finds a place to sit and enjoy a quick meal together before splitting off and heading to bed. But before they are able to settle in, Carvis reveals that she had a dream only the night before, and that everyone here was in it, and everyone died, especially Hazel. The following morning, the crew wakes, gathers their horses, and gets back onto the trail. It's not long on the road, while arguing about theater culture in Gravisport, that two explosions of earth and rock throw the team from their mounts. Two belays burst forth from the ground, and while the crew tries to subdue them, it becomes clear that these raging creatures are actually in the middle of a gruesome courtship, and have no care for our crew whatsoever. Though regardless of not being aware of the team, the belays deal quite a lot of damage in the meantime. During the fight, another group of travelers find their way into the melee. Among them are twin black dragonborn, as well as a humanoid person riding the back of a sprinting dwarf. This new group helps bring down the belays, and joins our hero in the healing of each other's parties. Ralder takes this time to admonish Hazel for using both of his healing spells on the team's pets, while he pushes up his sleeves and heals Carvis, who had taken quite a bit of damage from the fornicating belays, as well as an assist in healing the new party's Fet Jarl. When the dust finally settles, it seems that the Dragonborn's eyes settle on the beauty that is Polythera, and the party takes the time to introduce themselves. Our crew is joined by Fet Jarl Veralt, Chaz, and Kraz, as well as Tober, a cleric of Gond. We find out that the Fet Jarl's crew has lost 5 members on the hunt of these fornicating belays, as the crew settle down to camp together. In the morning, they travel to Gankit over conversation about their famous meat pies, as well as the intricacies of Polythera's guns. When they arrive in Gankit, Fet Jarl Veralt offers to pay for the lodgings for Ralder and his crew to stay in the Gankit, or the Plate, the best tavern in town, as Chaz and Kraz break the news to Nis that her husband didn't make it back from the quest. A young and very dirty lad named Dink is called forth to bring them refreshment and give Klesh the grand tour of this tiny town of Gankit, which, much to Klesh's chagrin, only includes the post and the tavern, and a ditch near the post. But determined as always to keep their excitement, Klesh draws everything they can of the town and then rejoins their companions at the Gankit for drinks, dinner, and sleep. The morning brings them breakfast in the form of omelets and toast, and as they make their way from the tavern, all of Gankit has gathered to wish our heroes farewell. Veralt gifts each of our travelers 10 gold each, which Ralder asks to give his share to the widows of the fallen travelers. And Carvis is gifted a large sack of meat pies from Nish as a thank you. Our heroes get back on their journey, and it's not long until the crew finds themselves at a fork in the road. This sign to the left reads, Herger's Landing. The center sign indicates Strandsvind or Bruthcliff, and the rightmost point off to Hoff Tower. After a quick look at the signs, Klesh points to the road to the right, and they ride until the party is overtaken by the cavalry of riders decked out in the livery of Odref. The leader of this new band of scouts hails the crew and asks their business in these lands, when she notices Klesh and welcomes them back to the duchy. Klesh recognizes this to be Jarl Denatra Rennegreen, Duchess Fricka's advisor and right hand, and as they exchange pleasantries, the Jarl's group continues on their patrol and leaves the crew to carry on with their business. It doesn't take long until the group reaches the front gates of the tower. where they are greeted by Greta, the Banner Maiden. Klesh shows her his courier seal, and they get waved in. The crew is brought to report to Fricta, and it isn't until everyone is led into an inner chamber that Ralder hands over the parcel. After reading it, Fricta asks Fet-Jarl Franz Lily to show our crew to comfortable lodgings, as she will have a reply to send back with them on the morrow. Franz leads the crew to his favorite watering hole, Da 30JUN2021, meaning the Mad Man. It is a low, squat stone building bursting with lively hustle and bustle. Inside, they find a tall, statuesque TTRPG woman wearing a red bandana, bandit style, around her neck. This is Doka Runga, and she runs the bar. Her husband Paul Runga, a stout dwarf and the tavern's cook, is also wearing a bandana over his hair, and their goblin child, Gimme, wears a red bandana over their back, scout style. As everyone enters, Doka begins to greet everyone until her eyes fall on Polythera. And again, she freezes mid-sentence. It takes her a moment to come back to herself and call out to Gimme to find the crew rooms in the back. But once again, everyone is well aware that Doka can't take her eyes off Polythera. While the crew relaxes and eats their pies that they got from Gankit, Klesh is given a crash course in gourmet butter. And again, stares from all over the room seem to focus on Polythera. Carvis catches one of the gawkers and matches their stare, ultimately startling him from the room. And as the crew takes this time to kick up their feet and enjoy a relaxing night of food and drink, while Hazel takes out his flute and plays a jaunty little tune, accompanied by Carvis's dog companion Bane. Slowly, everyone makes their way to bed, only to rise in the morning to find Klesh passed out, face first, in a plate of melted butter, also with various bar accessories stacked atop of them. Klesh does take a little bit of damage, as Bane helps to aggressively clean their face, and the team, and by the team we mean Polythera, requests pancakes for breakfast, while Ralder quietly hopes for bacon and coffee. Over their breakfast, Doka comes out and tries hard to hide her shame, as she once again attempts to suss out where Polythera is from. Polythera informs her that her family is from Newhall, and as Doka is more confused, she lets her know that no, her family did not move to Newhall, but Doka has never heard of an Aasimar being any further north than Tarjin, and the group is suddenly fascinated by the fact that Polythera is unaware of her lineage, and that she truly believes that she is human, just as her parents are. But in the end, everyone decides it's better to just let her believe as she will, and Doka confides in Carvis and Ralder that they should be careful if they encounter other Tarjin folk, for they might not be as so relaxed as she. It's not long until Franz Lily comes to collect the team and gather up the reply from Duchess Fricta to take back to Gravisport. Klesh is given the parcel to carry, and they take their leave. While on the road, it does seem a bit busier, with a company of troops on their way to Gankit. The first leg of the journey goes uneventfully, and after a full day's travel, they find themselves back at the doors of the Gankit, once again greeted by Dink. It's not long before Dink is back, and brings them all plates of pie and pancakes, and joins them for dinner. During their meal, Dink asks about what message it was that they were carrying, and the crew scrambles to distract him from this question, quite terribly. But Dink kindly drops the subject and goes about his business, clearing the bar and the stables. Then while everyone goes to bed, Hazel and Klesh take turns staying up to keep an eye on the reply in Klesh's bag. During the night, both Klesh and Hazel observe two men lingering about the bar that seem familiar to Klesh. Also, during the morning, different folk from the town come to leave gifts for our team. And as everyone wakes, they find a roll of parchment with thank you notes, a crown of flowers, a potted tulip, as well as a bouquet of flowers and a satchel of pies. Everyone splits up the gifts, as Klesh slips the reply to Ralder to hide on his person. Then the team begins their journey again, but it's not long till Ralder picks up the possible tale behind them. He alerts Polythera of his suspicions and asks her to keep an eye out, but it's Hazel and Klesh who identify the hiding places of the two men trailing them. They make a point out of telling Ralder that the men, and they all discuss the merits of taking a different road or confronting their shadows. Ultimately, they decide to take the southern route toward the ocean to make it harder for everyone to ambush them. After traveling for quite some time, the crew decides to camp out on the beach and take turns taking watch over the night. During their watches, Hazel falls into fire, making his rounds. Ralder notices the two men hiding out among the closest tree line. He then points them to Klesh and Polythera, who is vaguely aware that one of the men looks familiar to her. Then, as Carvis and Ralder wake for their last round of watches, Carvis casts thaumaturgy on herself and uses booming voice to yell out at the hidden men. After being yelled at, the crew notice that the tails move deeper into the brush and stop pretending to be rocks. And as things settle down, Klesh and Ralder decide to slip the reply into Carvis's bag unbeknownst to her, to keep it hidden better still. They're all safe as day breaks, and the crew packs up and heads straight back to Gravisport, where they go looking for Vesdruth, whom they find on the tower taking his turn at watch. It's not long after meeting up with Vesdruth that Polythera spots the two men that have been following them, again. And now that she is back in her natural surroundings, Polythera identifies the dwarf as one of the governor's personal guards. Vesdruth's orders are quick and change the watch to take the reply straight to his office, dismissing the crew to their quarters. And after a few pleasantries, Ralder offers to meet up again soon for pancakes, and all of our heroes take their leave. And that, dear travelers, is where our story ends today. As mentioned before, I extend our gratitude to the mysterious benefactors Yev, Nomad, and Backblaze for helping us keep our stories flowing and all of our fires going. So without further ado, please, travel on.